This will be a quick intro to the idea of stool mounding. It's a style of propagation that is really effective for certain types of plants. It certainly won't work for every single thing, but your multi-stem suckering shrubs, so all the currants, elderberry, things along that line really respond to it. And I'm just going to share, because right now is the time to do it, the beginning of the season. You could also do it in the fall. But basic concept is, here are two red currants. Well, they were two red currants 5 or 6 years ago, that every time I dig out my waterways and trenches or shave pathways, I throw the soil up against the stem and let it crumble down. Any stem that's under soil for a full growing season will develop roots into it, and at the end of this growing season, when it's gone dormant in the fall, I can gently pull the soil away and cut every one of these stems to have an independently rooted production age red currant. So throwing muck on this in the spring means 50 to 100 3-foot plants in the fall. Let's take a look at some examples. This is a nice healthy Ben Surek black currant that I just threw some soil around the base of. It had a single stem coming out of the ground, nice fat stem, and so I banked up soil, making sure to cover each of the other stems with soil. And I'll throw some wood chips on top of this. You want this soil to remain moist as it's growing. And I got the soil to hill that, to mound that, by renovating a walkway that I'm going to keep cutting. Really nice rich soil. It's been sitting for a while, and as I make my cuts I can deposit it up against these stems of these woody shrubs, these little black currants, and they'll root into that and be multiple plants by the fall. There's a Rovada red currant, same treatment. I could go way more. I really should hill it a lot more than that. Let's look at some other examples. There's a Mackenzie aronia just on the other side of the fence here, which is a multi-pronged suckering shrub that I really should have stool layered. If I had done that last spring, I'd be in a position now this spring to be able to take each of these 5-foot beautiful canes and separate them from the parent, all with their own roots, and have about 25 plants. So had I spent a minute with a shovel, I'd have 20 more Mackenzie aronia. But in this case, I did stool mound my Scotia elderberry, my wildwood elderberry, and Bob Gordon elderberry. You really get a strong sense of how much light they like. This pine casts shade on Bob Gordon, a little bit of wildwood, but not on Scotia, and Scotia is the real winner. So I can take hardwood cuttings, I talk about that in other videos, I propagate them on bottom heat or just stick them in the soil. But again, everywhere that they're covered in soil in the fall, I should be able to dig them up and separate them and have 9-foot elderberries to transplant out to the field. So this gives you an idea of what it will look like after a year. This was stool layered last year. This is a consort black currant with really nice rich soil, which the plant likes. Even if you don't want to propagate it, if the plant is willing to root into soil that's stooled around it or hilled around it, you might as well go ahead and do it because the plant enjoys it. But now you can see this is a root from this stem. If I cut just below that root, well, ideally I'd pull this soil away further. You can see the further down I go, the more roots there are that are all separate from the host plant, the main plant. So I can cut below that and plant these on. And again, each one would be a full-size plant with flower buds and should be able to flower in the first year, if not the second. So it really speeds things up. Stool layering for the win. Definitely worth throwing shovelfuls of dirt at your plants.